All right, welcome back to Talking Shop. We got a great text for the Transfiguration of our Lord, Mark chapter 9, verses 2 through 9. We're going to have a great conversation about the glory of the Lord, the fullness of God dwelling in that is Christ, what it means to want to build some tents and hang out there, the call to go back down, and what the voice of God says from the cloud. Big stuff. Lots of great material for preaching. It should be a good conversation. Join us in that conversation. Share your thoughts on the text as well. It always helps everybody. Take a moment to like and subscribe. Share us if you haven't done that yet. That's always helpful to get the word out. And let's get after it.
In every way, yet I'm still welcome in the arms of the King.
All right, Mark chapter 9, verses 2 through 9, the Transfiguration of our Lord. And after 6 days, is there any significance to that? I don't know. Maybe.
That's a good question.
We didn't really talk about it when we translated it. But after 6 days...
Well, doesn't that mean that this is the seventh day? And so,
that's what I'm thinking.
So he's going up to the mountain to rest?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Could be. Or the sixth day is still, it's the day of the culmination of creation. Mm-hmm. So it could be that this is still squarely within creation. This isn't the final redemption, you might say.
Okay,
It's another possible way
you
to
might be
see
otherwise tempted to believe.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, especially since you have, I mean, we don't have it in our reading here, but there are some here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in His glory. And so the idea here is that this isn't the final. This is an interim.
And the
This
other
isn't
thing,
the ultimate, it's the penultimate.
Penultimate.
there you go. But you can also check off the box that says Elijah must come. Whoop, there he is.
Yeah.
Because John already said, I'm not. Well,
Right.
Here he is.
Yeah.
All right, getting ahead of ourselves. After 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John. These are his tight little group there, his inside guys, and they go up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before him, is usually how it's translated, right? It's from the Greek, basically where we get metamorphosis.
Metamorpho,
right?
yep.
To transfigure, to change from one shape to another. Before them. And what's it like? What's happening? We all know this Transfiguration Sunday. Everyone's they're ready for it.
Yeah.
And he's gleaming.
Yeah.
And it's the crescendo of the Epiphany season, This is
Of course,
do you want to say ultimate or penultimate? Let's go with penultimate. Apparition of Christ. So, I mean, if you were wondering who can forgive sins but God alone, who can do this, who can do that, well, now he's...
The shiny guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's the one.
So he is transfigured. He's gleaming white. I mean, that's really Mark's take on this.
Mark's take
it's
on
just
this, yeah.
heavy duty how bright this is.
Yeah.
When we were translating it, it was kind of basically like whiter than any white you could ever imagine thing that you could ever get white.
Yeah,
is whiter than that.
Like someone who bleaches wool upon the earth.
Right.
They're not able to make it this white.
Yeah.
That's kind of the...
Yeah.
If you want to take a terse
some
translation
other
of that.
accounts will speak of it as like that lightning kind of
I think
image.
that's Luke.
Said
Luke says that it's like lightning. So there, Luke focuses on kind of the light, the brightness. Mark takes it as a whiteness or a cleanness even. Especially with the bleaching and that. So pure.
Pure, purity.
Maybe
I
you
think
could
that
say.
kind of language.
White as snow situation.
Yeah.
So he is transfigured before him, but that's actually not the big thing. I mean, it's a big thing, but it's not the big thing, right? He's transfigured, and I think I've probably preached this in the past, where you kind of use that image of like a bit of the covering is pulled back, right?
Yes. No, absolutely.
The veil's opened up.
Yeah, the veil. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, it's kind of like you're allowed to get a little bit of glimpse here, and man, it's something.
Yeah.
Right.
It's intense.
Yeah.
It's intense.
I'd call it the beatific vision. Why not?
Yeah, and who's there? Who shows up with him there?
Elijah and Moses.
Yeah, they're always featured there with him in all the accounts of the Transfiguration. Elijah and Moses, and they're talking with him. I think that's actually important. They're having this conversation with him. Why Elijah and Moses? What significance do they hold to this whole
The
thing?
prophets and the laws.
Okay, that's one common way. The law, they represent kind of the law and the prophets. It's not the only reason, though. What are some other ones?
We just had that Old Testament passage, Deuteronomy 18, where Moses predicts another one is coming, raised up from among your brothers. To him you should listen. And that's what the voice says.
Okay, great. So yeah, this one that'll come from among you.
Yeah.
Here he is.
And Moses is testifying.
With, right?
He predicted, now he's testifying. Right. So, and he's not talking.
Yeah.
So we should listen to the one.
Well, and then just like you mentioned earlier, they expected the prophets. They expected a prophet as great as Elijah will come back to them, and so you have Jesus, who is greater than Elijah.
Yeah. So you do have. I think that's a great one where you have the prophecy one that Elijah will come back. You got the prophecy one like Moses. And now here are these two characters, and they're actually having a conversation with this third guy. Right? This transfigured, gleaming white, pure Son of God, right? Who is there. And so it's kind of building up that. But there's even more. I mean, both Moses and Elijah have a habit of talking with God on mountains, right?
Yes.
They do that, and they're up, as Mark lays out, a very high mountain. And, of course, they're talking with God, because that's what they do on mountains, these guys. And they're talking with
Jesus, yeah.
And when Moses did that,
that's interesting.
He came back down and his face was still glowing. It reflected that light.
That light, yeah, sure.
Whereas here, Jesus emanates that light.
Yeah, very good.
So he's not just reflecting like Moses did. So
Sure.
he's even greater than Jesus.
Yeah. Huh.
I heard I was just talking with some of my buddies the other day. We heard it from somebody. We can't remember where. This isn't like a biblical thing, but it was somebody threw out the idea of perhaps, let's put it that way, that when Elijah is on the mountain talking with God, and when Moses is on the mountain talking with God, this is that moment.
Oh.
So it's like a time warp.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Like here's the moment. They're in their time doing their thing.
Wow.
And for some weird way, now again, you don't preach that. Don't preach
My
that.
brain just bent.
But it's kind of cool, like that notion, like what does that look like to be on the mountain? Well, it looks like this. You're talking with Jesus. The shining bright, going back to the Moses thing, where this is where the light emanates from. It is the Son of God who's there.
It's a nice setup. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You go.
But I mean, that's if you think of it that way, then you know that's why Moses and Elijah was so assured of the assurance of the prophecy being fulfilled and that Jesus is the salvation.
Yeah. And to me, it's also a nice setup for Revelation where there's no need for a son because the Lamb and the one on the throne give enough light. Doesn't mean we won't have one, but you don't need a son. It's hard to know what to go with that way.
Well, it's trying to reorient our understanding to what actually light is.
Yes.
And when he says son, everyone, he means S-U-N. So
It works both ways, doesn't it? Because the greater son created the lesser son.
Yeah.
So, and then there's one more, I don't think it gets talked about a lot, at least I would throw out there, is we know Elijah did not die. It is carried in God. But there is a tradition, Jewish tradition of, not that Moses didn't die, but something happens to his bones go awry. They're missing, right? And that they're somehow transported to heaven. So like there's another argument I've heard people make where they talk about this. These guys are here because these are also representatives of something greater than death itself. And then here they are sitting, conversing against the sun.
Well, and you have the Elijah doesn't die in Deuteronomy, you definitely have in there he died and God buried him, and so this is also Jesus is among the living and the dead.
Yeah,
if you're going to go with
and God's hands are there, like that was a great reminder there that God's the one who buries Moses.
Yeah.
It's not the people, right? God's caring for this. And so here he is now.
And he is the God of the living, not the dead. That's what he said about the patriarchs.
Which could take you into Colossians. I know it's not our text, but Colossians 3. You have died, and your life is now hidden with Christ. And when he appears in glory, so you also will appear. That might be a great text.
Also, Jesus has mastery over life and death, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's another huge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Man, that was great.
We're only in what, 2 verses so far?
So Peter says to Jesus then,
it is good.
What the heck's going on? No, he says what?
It is good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. For he did not know what to say, for they were terrified.
I was talking to my buddy Joel the other day about this text. He goes, you think like Peter, like when they're writing the gospel, he's like, hey, write down, I didn't know what I was talking about. like I know we all know I said that, but man, I didn't know. I didn't know what I was talking about.
James and John will tell you that it was me who said something. I didn't know what to say.
I didn't know what I was talking about.
But if that was the case, that's very humble of him, right?
But I think this is, so I have preached this before this way, where I use this line of Peter as kind of an anchor for exactly what we all want to do. In other words, like if there was a transfiguration moment today, what would you do? You would build a shrine there. You would escort people up there in hopes that maybe they too can see something glorious. Like in other words, this place, the displaying of the glory of God, is a spot on earth to be set aside as sacred and holy and all these things. Let's stay here. We do it, so that's a glorious high level. We do it with like holy sites in Jerusalem and other places. You get down much lower everyday kind of things where people go to, like youth go to summer camp and they get these like mountaintop experiences and then they're chasing that forever. I want that moment, right? And big piece of this is it kind of ends, we're jumping the gun, but it ends with just Jesus. Now everything else is gone. And he's like, hey, we got to go back down the mountain. Like the goal isn't to stay here. The whole purpose is to go back.
Well, or maybe a different take on that, of kind of from a different side, is Peter wants to keep Moses and Elijah and Jesus with them. And so we'll house them here. They don't need to go back wherever they were. And so whatever this glory is, it can stay here with us. So not so much we would like to stay in the glory, but we'd like to keep that glory here with us. And so the going back down the mountain is the idea that, and maybe you can tie this into the 6 days and then into Jesus saying this, it's not so much that glory isn't there, but that glory isn't revealed in its fullness. It's not, it's still waiting a culmination. And so we can't stay there in that glory because this glory isn't complete.
Well, I like that because he's right in the middle of 3 reminders to all his disciples about his passion, upcoming passion. He's predicting his death. So you got to see it in that context. Like somebody said it, you don't look to the transfiguration, you look through it.
And that's exactly, with you, if you have Jesus' words at the beginning, some will not taste death until they have seen. And then his end, don't tell anybody until the Son of Man is risen from the dead. You get that sandwiched in between there of, this isn't, you don't know the fullness of this yet.
Well, throughout the Bible, we always hear this situation where Jesus goes up to a mountain or a secluded place to pray, and then the angels are ministering to him. And then this time, instead of 2 angels, you have Moses and Elijah. And it's like the preparation, he's just being prepared. Every time every time he's going through something in this world, he gets ready and he goes to a secluded place, gets ready, and then he goes back into the world. And this is the biggest preparation before the big entrance.
And obviously it fits with the Epiphany theme. So this is their epiphany as to who it is that's going to the cross for them.
This
is
God.
absolutely.
So then a cloud overshadows them. This is very Mount Sinai-esque kind of stuff here. This is what happens. Again, you go up on a mountain to talk with God. A shadow, the glory, the presence of the Lord descends upon the mountaintop, right?
Yeah. And I was thinking you could actually play the tenting thing. Here, Peter wants to make these tents, and God comes in and goes, no, I've got a greater tent.
Exactly.
And brings his presence in. Yeah.
Nice.
And it overshadows them. They hear a voice. This is my beloved son. Listen to him. Now that's your big point. Like everything is focusing all eyes and all ears to this guy. Right? Moses and Elijah are listening to him. You're going to listen to him.
And this is how we started Epiphany.
Yep. That's right.
Because this was the baptism of Jesus, where the voice comes down from heaven.
Slightly different comment from heaven, right?
It is, yeah.
First one is, with him I am well pleased, whom I love.
Yeah.
And this one is, listen to him.
Yeah.
Take them both together.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
On your way to the cross.
So, and I think it's beautiful how, like, quick it is, right? So the cloud overshadows them. They hear the voice of God. This is my beloved son. Listen to him. And then it's just poof. Everything else is gone.
Yeah.
And what are you left with?
Jesus.
Just Jesus. Just him there.
Yeah.
And so it's like all this splendor, all this glory was to focus them on Christ.
Or
focus us on Christ.
Or all of this glory and all of this splendor is within that Christ
He's all you
who's
need.
standing there for
that's
him.
a good way to say it. This is all of that.
I mean, I think it's a good way for like preaching Sunday service and then going out into the week as well. Like you go to church on Sunday, you get the blessings and gifts from God, and it's all wonderful, magical. Right. And everyone always says, I wish we just stay at church and just like be in this moment all this time. And then in an instant, service is over, and then all you have left is the word that has been instilled in your heart, and you're sent back out into the world.
That's good.
And it is, again, like Mike said, sufficient. This is it. This is enough. And so they're coming down the mountain, and what does he say to them? What is his charge, I guess?
Tell no one what they had seen until the Son of Man had risen from the dead.
Right. So, because all of this, again, it's none of this, maybe a better way to say it, none of this is of any worth outside of Calvary.
Right.
This is the God, the glory, all these things, the fullness of that, who comes to die for you.
Amen.
Just as you see through the Transfiguration, you have to see the Transfiguration through Calvary.
Right.
Yes.
The glory and splendor of God and His majesty is there on the cross as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just veiled, you
now
might say.
Now is the time for the Son of Man to be glorified. And John.
And I kind of feel like if they did go around telling everyone, would that impede the journey to Calvary? Because if they look, we saw Moses and Elijah come to him. He is the one. And then now everyone would glorify Jesus, but in the glory of our human understanding versus the glory that we do need, which is the cross.
Well, we won't pick it up until later on in the lectionary, but that's exactly what Peter is thinking, I think. Because Peter's confession comes right before this, but that's the idea of, no, that's not the glory of God. That's not the way that you see that.
Right.
And so for them to declare that they've seen the glory of God, actually, no, they haven't yet. Because they haven't been to Calvary yet.
Yeah, very good.
It's so easy to mistake the one for the other. Until you wait all the way out to the crucifixion and resurrection. Then it makes sense.
Man, great stuff. Take a moment to like and subscribe if you haven't done that yet. And share your thoughts on this powerful text. Lots there for sure. And always kind of a fun one to preach as we get ready for the season of Lent. But let us know what you're going to do, what you're focusing on. And God bless your preaching.